Kingsway podcast.
Welcome.
Ryan, I went to the best concert I think I've ever been to over the weekend.
Yeah.
Ben Rector, wholesome, not a single cuss word. Some of the most creative, fun concert level junk I've ever seen.
Yeah. Me and my wife have been to a Ben Rector concert, not this one on this tour, but one on, I think, the second to last tour.
Dude,
something
it was
like that.
So much fun.
I was kind of skeptical because Ben Rector, his recorded like studio kind of music, it's done well, but it's just like no danger pop music.
Yep.
It's just like, I guess it's here. I don't know. But what I loved was seeing him live and seeing their actual musicianship without the like tracks and stuff that nobody's actually playing. Him and everybody in his band are really good.
Dude, so the first thing he starts out with, Kenny G is on his last album, by the way.
Yeah.
Which is, he got Kenny G and Snoop Dogg on his last album. I don't know who else can do that, but he did. No one. But he found this kid, 21 years old, on Instagram that played the keys and saxophone, and he just randomly dropped into his DMs and was like, hey, you want to come on tour?
Yeah.
And the kid was like, I'm still in college. And he's like, so? He's like, so the kid's literally doing this tour and doing school afterwards. So he's like, yeah, he's gonna go home and do homework right now. Like,
yeah.
And he killed it. He's so good. He's like, dude, there's one thing to be good in your bedroom, and there's another thing to be good in front of 4,000 people. And this kid is fire. And so he's like, I didn't know how good he was until 2 days ago in Memphis when he slayed. And so he like jazzed them all up, and then the kid killed it afterwards.
Yeah.
Like, and it was
he like a guy playing the whole set, or just like brought him out for a moment?
The whole set. And like he just introduced him as like, he's like, Kenny G, watch out. Like, that's where it's like, David's coming for you. Like,
I love that.
Anyway, concert was fantastic. I think it was just wholesome, a lot of fun, so creative. Like you said, they took tons of risks. And because he's like a new dad and got married in the last few years and stuff, he's like, I literally came from my couch to here, and I forgot, like, I'm supposed to know what I'm doing. So we've had like 3 rehearsals, and I just apologize in advance. And then they proceeded to slay everything.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, they were just so good.
I mean, it's not the first time he's done that. He's just kind of like dusting it off.
He just forgot. He's like, I literally was changing a diaper like 20 minutes ago, and now I'm on stage with you guys.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, dude, it was awesome.
Yeah.
So much fun. Had a blast.
I
can't get over it. I can't get over how good it was, because I've been to good concerts, but I've never been to one where I felt like the person on stage was totally relatable, totally fun, and then looked effortless to make things entertaining and solid. Like, it just looked like he was just hanging out in his living room, and you were invited to be his friend.
Yeah.
And it was blast.
That's the thing I like the most about his concert versus other concerts I've been to. There have been other ones that are insanely good.
Oh, yeah.
But his is like, it's less like he's a musician and more like he's a person. He's a personality. And you get to know him through the different music, through how they'll play a song from the album, and about 2-3 minutes in, it'll just be a different song.
Dude,
they'll just like pull out
his
some
most
random
famous song, the one about falling in love, the one that's at every wedding. He started out as a country song.
Yeah.
So everyone put on country hats, like big old cowboy hats. And then in the middle of the song, the sound people or like the backstage people came out and changed everyone's hats to barbershop quartets. And they changed it to a barbershop, like in the middle of the song. And then he got done, and he was like, yeah, I have to be honest. We tried that last night, and we lost the key, and we totally blew that song up. But we slayed it for you. Like it was just so funny. Anyway, this is completely off topic.
Yeah.
But I had to get that out. Also, I just need you guys to know, if you're watching this podcast right now, you're looking at a master.
That is something that happened over the weekend. Overshadowing a Marvel movie coming out was the fact that I know I have way more free time.
Are you the Solstice or the Supreme, whatever?
I've been elected the Supreme Chancellor of the Galactic Senate. No, I got my master's degree.
Yes. I'm proud of you, man. I know you worked really hard the last couple months, and people like Kingsway saw it, and they benefited from it.
Yeah.
And I know your wife's excited, like you said earlier, to be married to someone who's no longer in school.
Yeah, that was one of the things she was looking forward to. Like, she's very proud of me for having a master's degree. I think her dad got a master's degree late in life, so you could be a licensed professional counselor and kind of switched to that career away from being a vocational local church pastor. And so she sees that as a noble thing. But at the same time, she's like, so this means that you'll never need to just at 8 p.m. say, oh no, and then go into the office and hide away until 11:59. I hear that click that says so you submit the assignment and you come back out defeated and just like, you never need to do that again. I was like, yeah, never. Never until I sign up for it again. One more time.
I paid for this torture.
Yeah.
Well, as you've probably seen the title of the podcast because you clicked on it.
Yeah.
And we haven't gotten close to that yet.
We have. Okay.
Okay.
So
sorry.
today we're talking about some of our favorite stories within specifically the Marvel and maybe more generally superhero.
Yeah, we're gonna stick around Marvel stuff. I'm hoping.
Yeah. But that's why I liked talking about the Ben Rector concert, talking about some of this other stuff. Is it's when you go to a Ben Rector concert, it's not an album playthrough.
No.
It is a story. Mm-hmm. You feel like Ben Rector is a character, not just a musician.
Oh, dude.
And the plot of his life unravels. Yeah, he does. And the plot of his life unravels before you as you go through the the thing.
Yep.
So
Steady Love, man.
Yeah.
Such a jive. Oh my gosh. Get you some Steady Love. You haven't heard that song and you're in a relationship or married. Listen, light a candle, get some flowers.
Yeah. But it's that's why people like his songs, because it's not that he's the greatest musician with the greatest chops of anybody.
No.
And he can play faster and he can play more but it's that when he plays, he's emoting.
Yep.
Everything. Like most of his songs are just pure nostalgia. It's about your elementary school friendships and crashing your bike and skinning your knee and you know what brand of roller skates you had, whatever.
Dude.
And that's like the crux of his music. Does that make the song like skill wise better? Absolutely not.
No.
But does it connect to more than just your brain?
Oh,
and it connects to your heart and more of your whole person, to your memories, to your experiences.
It was one of the most eclectic groups of people. Like there was teenagers and young kids, and there was people in their 70s. And everyone was dancing and singing and having a great time. And like, I don't know. You're perfectly right that it tells a larger story. Yeah. Like when you see a crowd like that, it's the connection of when you sing about a steady love, it's the high schooler who longs for it. And it's the person that's celebrating their 50th wedding anniversary.
And it's the person who's lost it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it all relates. I think why we're excited to introduce and talk about this Marvel idea of like why stories connect so well to us, why telling us stories transcends generations, is because we ultimately want to get to the second half of this.
This is part one of
this is part one.
Parts.
Yeah. So the second half will be maybe a little bit more of I would say the meat, but not necessarily like this week isn't worth listening to, because I think it's a healthy way that we're going to get there. And I think it's a healthy way for you to be able to see what we're going to talk about in part two in kind of, I would say, in a more broad way, an easier way of an in.
Yeah. So this week we're going to be talking about some of those stories from some of those movies that we love. But it's going to tie into part two, which is, I'd say, even more specific than the meat of the discussion. It's like the philosophy, the theology, how it ties into God and our faith and that kind of stuff. But this is us talking about specific stories, and next week will be us talking more generally about stories. But it's just going to cross over and bleed over a little bit,
It absolutely will. This will be a fun two-parter, and I think this is something that, we have some other topics and things coming down the lines that I'm excited about, and a couple of them are actually really fun ones that have come from people suggesting things. We got emails and comments and even a text message. Yeah. So I know for us, we're excited about this. Was something that we came up with just a few weeks ago because the new Doctor Strange movie is coming out.
Yeah.
And we started talking about Marvel movies. And it led to, I think, this being a healthy thing to talk about.
And we've now both seen the new Doctor Strange movie. Are we going to have spoilers? No?
No. Probably not.
No.
It's not. I mean, how long ago was this now? I mean, it's like a few weeks, like 3 weeks, 4 weeks?
This is coming out this week.
Yeah, so we can't do it. We can't spoil.
Okay.
However, I will say this. The new one is a nerd fest. It is a lot of fun if people know things about the Marvel Universe.
It is, I think, of the Marvel movies that have come out in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So I'd say Iron Man 1 and on maybe 10, 15 something years of that. I'd say this is the one that tries the least hard to go back and explain stuff.
Yep.
It assumes you've seen everything and just goes forward with it.
Absolutely.
And also, it is a Doctor Strange movie. Doctor Strange movies, this is the second one, but they always lean on his kind of magical sorcery kind of thing. And so it's just going to be unpredictable. And
this
people are going to come out of the woodwork.
Darker, and it's got jump scares in it. And like there's definitely parts of this. Like the director has directed Army of Darkness, which is like a old horror movie. And it was good. It's just so knowing that background, I think going into it, knowing that it's not gonna baby you, so it's not gonna hold your hand, and then on top of that, Doctor Strange movies, because they are like kind of a mystic, magical, whatever, they can go one or two directions with that. It can become kind of like sorcery, and it can go kind of dark, or it can go like Harry Potter, you know what I mean? And like go happy, and like, oh look, we can wash the dishes with a wand. You know what I mean? So like this movie, I think leans more towards the darker side of like what magic can bring about, obviously. And so just go into it with that mindset. I deeply enjoyed it.
Me too.
I found it entertaining.
I was worried. I walked into it having seen one day before that somebody on Facebook that I'm friends with said Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness 6 out of 10. And I was like, oh no.
Yep.
This is going to be. And then I walked into it and it was great. I loved it.
Yeah. I would say it was like an 8 for me. It wasn't like my favorite, but I did not dislike it. Like it wasn't anything that I was like, but I don't rewatch the first Doctor Strange, and I don't know how much I'll rewatch this one.
Okay. Let's, before we get any further, where in the breakdown of the 28, I don't know how many there actually are.
Let's just start.
Where's this fall?
Where's your favorite? Because like this is like middle ground for me. Like it's nothing that I'm like gonna throw it at the bottom. That's like Ant-Man, where I just did not enjoy it hardly at all. Where I'm just kind of like, take it or leave it. Ant and Wasp. That whole storyline to me just.
I loved Ant-Man.
But that's the thing. It's your preference. Like for me, like Ragnarok was one of my favorite. Winter Soldier is my favorite. Yeah. Like it's that and Infinity War. Like those two movies are the ones that I find the most entertaining.
So I'd say that I think my top 5 favorite Marvel movies are the first Captain America. Mm-hmm. I'd say probably the first, I don't know. I want to say the first Iron Man, but it's mostly the first half of the first Iron Man. Mm-hmm. After that, it's just pretty good. Yeah. Whatever. But so like true. The whole origin
Once he gets
story,
out of the cave, it's over.
Yeah. So I'd say Captain America. I'd say Doctor Strange 1 is up there for me. I loved it.
That's fun.
And I could not get over it. I'd probably say, I'm trying to think through all the different ones. Ones that are not up there, Captain Marvel. Thought was a little bit of a dud.
Yep, I agree.
I thought the first Thor was kind of a dud. Yep. I thought Iron Man 2 was kind of a dud.
Yeah, it was all right.
That's kind of before they got their Disney act together.
It's before they
had their identity.
They got their real consistency.
Yeah.
I feel like, so like for me, it's like Infinity War and Endgame are my two favorite to watch.
Yeah.
Like I rewatched those more than anything, and I have currently rewatched them recently, and I really enjoyed them. If I'm going to watch an individual one, though, it's absolutely Winter Soldier. Like, that's what I'm watching. The second Captain America movie, Winter Soldier. I think it's got grittiness to it, the friendship, kind of this idea of, like, conflict and, like, what do you do when the person you're fighting you love? And, like, I just love that idea. Ragnarok made me laugh so hard.
Yeah.
I had such a positive experience with that movie, and it was just one of those that, like, caught me off guard how good it was. And then the first Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, I remember being in that one in the movie theater and I had no knowledge of what the Guardians of the Galaxy was. And I remember just leaving that going, I just met 5 new superheroes and I absolutely loved all of them.
I liked the first Guardians of the Galaxy. It was pretty good. Mm-hmm. I did not like the second one.
No. The only part of the second one I really liked was the Beastie Boys montage where... Or no, that's Star Trek. I'm blending Star Trek now with this Army of Darkness.
So I'd say my top 5 are first Captain America, first Doctor Strange.
Okay.
I would say Infinity War is on there, but Endgame is not.
It's not. Okay.
I thought Endgame was fine and it was good, and some of the middle I liked a good amount. with it's been out long enough with the time travel and the
Yeah.
other stuff, whatever. But I think my other favorites, I'm scared. They're almost too new. I don't want to say they're up there.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked this new Doctor Strange. It might be up there for me.
Yeah.
I think I just like Doctor Strange. I think that might just
Yeah,
be it.
I was gonna say it sounds like you like that character a lot.
Yeah.
Which is fine.
And then honestly, okay, which was the Harry Potter? Which was the Spider-Man with the Falcon? Is that the first one?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the new one, Homecoming.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That might be
Yeah, that was a good one.
between that and the new Spider-Man. But I think the first one over the third one.
I really like the last Spider-Man a lot. but
Yeah,
for
they're
reasons that we
both
probably
so
can't completely talk about yet.
Yeah.
But it was really, really fun. Very nostalgic.
Yeah.
So here's the cool thing. We like list all these movies, right? And we can
Yeah.
immediately attach to it and stuff. But like break this down for me. What captures you when you think about your favorite Marvel movie? And maybe as
Yeah.
you're listening to this, like think about this yourself. Like, what is it that pulls you in?
Yeah.
Is it relatability? Is it surprise? Is it the thing that like tension or whatever the conflict is? Does it need to be real or does it need to be something that you don't figure out right away? Like, what is the answer? Is it watching a character grow and like watching
Yeah.
like things change? Is it just the graphics and like their abilities and like what they're able
Yeah.
to do that's beyond what you can do?
Yeah.
Some combination of that. Like, I mean,
So the reason I like superhero movies so much in general, I've figured this out recently, is that I did not like public school that much.
yeah.
I just did not understand the social game that everybody was playing or seemed to be playing, and I felt like I didn't fit in that much. And so when we go back and watch movies about high school, middle school, movies about dating,
Yeah.
I get this real anxiety that's like, I don't want to go back there. I'm married and I'm doing fine. I don't want to try that again.
Yep.
No. And so that's one reason I love superhero movies is because it's so unreal. Even though it's the people have some nice actual humanity to them. They're deep characters.
They're enough
sometimes.
to relate to, but
But the scenarios, you're never like, oh, I need to saw this giant space squid in half.
yep.
That's never happened in my
Yeah,
life.
yeah.
And so that's like, you can feel the tension of what's happening without it playing on your own experience in the real world with the exact same thing.
Yeah.
But you can relate to the feeling of struggling for an outcome or something like that.
See, and I love that. I love that idea of being like taken outside of myself and drawn into
Yeah.
another story. That's why I like Harry Potter. It's why I like Lord of the Rings, because you're like pulled into this other world. And I think superheroes movies do this great job of creating what seems to be a similar place, but like a different dimension. It's like
Yeah.
an unseen part of what's going on, right? So
Yeah.
even back in high school, take Spider-Man, right? Like he's a high school student, but by night or by day, he puts his costume on and his world
Yeah.
is completely different, right? And I
Yeah.
love that idea of like being pulled into something. I think that's part of the reason why I cling to movies that I find the characters to be somebody that I relate to. So for example,
Yeah.
like Bucky in The Winter Soldier, like I relate
Yeah.
to that character that's like had the heart of gold, wanted to do the right thing, and through some things of his own choices, but some things beyond his own choices, he now is like
Yeah.
torn apart. And I love characters that have that tension. Guardians of the Galaxy is the same thing, where you have these characters that like they have these desires to do bad things, but they're trying to be good guys. And like they're comical and silly, and they
Yeah.
all have their own individual trauma and tragedy in their life.
And that exact thing is why Sharon keeps telling me, which it's categorically wrong, but she keeps telling me that her favorite Avenger is Loki. And I'm like, he's not an Avenger.
He an Avenger.
And she's like, I don't care. He's my favorite Avenger. And I'm like, okay. But it's because of that anti-hero thing where he has the power to do something, but he's struggling between selfishness, self-seeking, whatever, and doing the right thing. He feels that like that dissonance in his gut when he's doing wrong and he wants to change. That's why we liked the Loki shows so much and why we wish there's like a standalone movie of him and whatever. But like his actual struggle, and this, to continue with it, is why she loves Thor: The Dark World, which gets so much hate online, and I don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not You just rewatch it. It's not nearly even close to the worst. Honestly,
No.
I love that. It would be really close to my top 5. Maybe not on it, but because there's this scene in the middle where Loki's in prison by
Yep.
Thor or by the world. I don't know, whatever.
Mhm.
He's in prison somewhere.
Asgard.
And he had just killed his mom
Mm-hmm.
or let his mom be killed because he ratted out somebody and kind of betrayed everybody. And he was a cause of his mom's death. And he's some of his powers allow him to deceive you and create illusions and have you see things that aren't really happening, whatever. So Thor comes down to confront him in prison, and Thor looks at what he thinks is his brother standing around proud and arrogant and whatever. And he says something like, "This isn't you." And he wipes away the illusion, and all of the grandeur in his expression and in his posture is just like wiped away as you see him crumpled to the ground in the corner, regretting what he's done. He didn't mean to do that.
Yep.
He meant to betray his leadership, even his own father and brother, but he didn't mean to hurt his mom.
Yep.
And that is relatable.
Oh, 100%.
That is so relatable. It's so human of him.
It is. It's amazing how many of these superhero, and I mean, it's comical because it's online now and reels and everything, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like the super, it's the Superman or the superhero quote, like from Spider-Man, like,
Yeah.
with great power comes great responsibility.
responsibility.
You know, like, and
Yeah.
it's like, I know Iron Man never says that, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I know, Loki never says that,
Yeah.
or Thor, but you feel that tension the whole time.
Yeah.
Where like, dude, even if you just chose to do nothing, it would cause big problems for the world.
Yeah.
Like if you just stepped away for a day and you chose not to use what you could do to help, it would have
Yeah.
a lasting effect. I think that's why I loved, and I still continue to love, the stories of a redemptive character.
Yeah.
Those are the stories that really redeem. And I think in Infinity War, it's Thor that is being redeemed, right? He's coming from a place where he's lost everything, and then everyone loses everything, and he did his best, and it wasn't enough.
Yeah.
And so in Endgame, they got knocked down. They're trying to get back up.
And in the first 5 minutes of the movie, he hears he has the opportunity not even to fix what he's done,
Yep.
but just to do it again and do it right this time, even though it's too late.
Exactly. And so then that movie becomes this redemptive. And what ends up being the changing thing for Thor is he doesn't try to do it on his own.
Yeah.
He does it with this group. And of course, that's the famous scene from Endgame where it's like Avengers Assemble.
Yeah.
And, it's Captain America all by himself. And he's like, even if I lose, I'm going to do everything I can to try to end this evil.
Yeah.
And the difference between Infinity War and that is it's not one person trying to kill Thor at the end of the movie. It's everyone, or not trying to kill Thanos.
Yeah.
He's trying, it's everyone comes
Yeah.
in and is like, hey, we're gonna fight. And it really just, in my mind, it kind of shows that redemptive, obviously 22, I think, movie build up
Yeah.
of just like, this is all the worlds colliding,
And
and it's powerful.
You really see every character at
Mhm.
that point. I mean, whether or not it was just in that movie or it was over
Mhm.
the past 10, 15, whatever
Yeah.
movies, you see Iron Man and Captain America. I think in Civil War,
Mhm.
you see their growth tracks cross over and go the opposite directions. They're both growing, but what they're growing into is more like each other at the beginning, where Captain America started off as this very by the rules paragon of a person, paladin of a person,
Mhm.
that kind of character. And as he goes through this, he's
Language.
confronted with how difficult
Yep.
like these black and white decisions are because there's so much gray in them. Where Iron Man has lived his life as basically Elon Musk, which is funny because he actually makes a guest appearance in like the first or second Iron Man. Elon's actually there. But he has this kind of like doesn't care
Mhm.
playboy a-hole attitude.
Yep.
And by the end of Endgame,
Yep.
his by the rules responsibility is what saves everyone.
Yep.
And that's not something that in Iron Man 1 or 2 you could depend on.
Oh yeah. Well, and it's crazy because their characters switch over, and then Hawkeye's character does the same thing where he like
with Natasha
Romanoff. Their characters switch places. I mean, Banner and the Hulk, right? They're suddenly on this. It's like all these characters that are doing similar things. Even the Guardians of the Galaxy, Chris Pratt's character. He's switching from like I'm not willing to. He's like I'll kill, whoever, and it's definitely that type of thing. And I know I've mentioned it already, but Winter Soldier is that way for me too, where it's Bucky starts out as the guy that wants to go and give his life for his country and do the right thing, and he ends up being the villain. And Chris Evans' character can't even get into the army because he's not strong enough. And by the end, the only way that these characters can truly find redemption is to help each other. And I don't know, that one just has these fight scenes that I just absolutely love. They're just so real, and there's just these two guys that I think they're just really shot well, designed well. So there's other aspects than just the story that pulls me into that one.
So we have the deep character development and the character depth itself. That's one reason I like a lot of these movies. Another reason I like them is because of the cosmic scope of it.
Yep.
How wildly beyond just human power it seems to be, as well as the good and evil battle behind it all. So this is the reason I liked Lord of the Rings. This is the reason I like Star Wars. This is the reason I like all of these different things. They all play on this harsh dichotomy of good and bad. And only in the past 20 years have they really tried to play in the gray area where good isn't always good and bad isn't always bad. And that's okay. That's fine. Yep. That's real.
Yep.
I think the real world isn't full of only good and only bad, but it's this captivating good versus evil story, and evil seems unable to be overcome, and good seems like it's gonna flicker out.
Light starts just so small.
Yeah.
It just grows, and you're like, maybe, and then it's almost blotted out, and I agree. I know for me, one of the things that pulls me in, it seems superficial at first, but I think it's totally like the Ben Rector concert, where it's like, it doesn't have to be the greatest story. It doesn't have to be the best musician. It doesn't have to be the most captivating character, but it feels real.
Yeah.
And the characters feel real. The comedy and the way that they laugh at themselves and they recognize that they're characters in a story that's funny. Like Ragnarok was that when Thor fights Hulk in that arena.
Yeah.
And he throws off the helmet and he's like, we're friends from work.
Yeah.
We've known each other. And like, you can see Loki like, oh crap. Like, everything's pulling together. And in my mind, like, it's almost like breaking the fourth wall where they're like, hey, this is going to be fun, isn't it? You know what I mean? Like, this is going to be a great time. And the characters themselves just allow you to almost like enjoy the part of being a part of it. It doesn't have these massive things hanging in the balance. It's not all about like character development. It's about just being friends and like doing something fun.
Yeah.
And like, you're just there to be a part of it. And
Yeah.
like, you're invited into the silliness, into the lightness, into this other world. And it becomes something that I think is engaging. It's exciting. It's silly. It makes you feel just good, and I think that's why some of the ones I like Guardians of the Galaxy and that are the lightheartedness of it, where like there's just these silly, sarcastic one-liners that seem to just, over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And I just find it incredibly fun and light to watch. I just love it. As well as the dark, like the Winter Soldier and the Guardians of the Galaxy or Ragnarok are like literally the exact opposite versions of what a Marvel movie can be. And Infinity War and Endgame, the same thing. Like, there's some funny things in there, but there's a lot of like, I don't feel so good, Mr. Stark. And you're like, no, like, or I love you 3000. Like, you're like, why? So yeah, I mean, if I'm being real, the thing that draws me to a movie, not the realism, not the deep character or the deep transformations, but it's how well does the story arc?
I'd say, without getting way too far into next episode, part of it is every part of a good story, especially the good superhero stories, looks like a good friendship. Mm-hmm. So there are deep moments where you're alongside each other in deep struggle. There are funny moments and exploratory moments where
Mhm.
you're just there to have fun, and you're just there to see more of God's good creation, and you're there to enjoy each other and make jokes and love that part of your community. But then I think an easily left off part, especially in America, of friendship and relationship building is shared trauma, a giant cosmic battle between good and evil. That is the kind of thing that makes good friends.
Oh man,
That's,
conflict. Yep.
Sharon and I had a big source of conflict in our lives, not between each other, but that we both faced on a regular basis. And the moment that was gone, we had to do a little building work in our relationship because we were like, we know how to love each other when we're both against this thing. Now, how do we love each other when that thing isn't in our lives?
Yep.
And
Yeah.
it was almost funny. It wasn't funny in the moment, but it's almost funny. Like that was a part of our relationship, was struggling against this other thing.
Oh yeah, and that's like one of my favorite scenes in Endgame is when they find Fat Thor, and like he's in this little Asgardian fishing village, and they like come in, and he's like playing video games and drinking ale and just like yelling at kids in the basement of their house, and like the way that they pull him out of that place is the trauma. They're like, look, we all lost. Like we all lost. Like that you didn't just lose. We lost too. And like remembering that pain is what gets him to maybe come back and go, we gotta try. And then of course he's showing up like the big Lebowski. And like that's what I'm like, move aside, Lebowski. Like that's what that's what Iron Man says the first time. It's like, this is so funny. Anyway, I think you are so right that there are just pieces of why the Marvel movies work and why I think I'm excited for part 2 in the sense of like I think subconsciously we know there's something larger at work, that what we're connecting this stuff to that like speaks to us in a way that we're like, why does this connect?
Why does it feel like it matters?
Exactly. Why does this feel so real when we know it's fake? And like, why does my heart yearn for stuff like this? Like, why does my mind go, yes, even though I know it's a fake victory?
Yeah.
Like, why does my heart go, I'm so glad they won?
Even though it's just some English guy
Yes.
in some harness in some green room being flown around, and like
it changes nothing in the world, like nothing. But if you're left like at the end of Infinity War, you feel like trash. Like you're like, why? Like I don't know what to do with myself. And that's why people now will never know what it was like to wait almost 2 years. Or was it a year?
A
year for Endgame. I remember that year was awful because you're like, just bring him back, please. No, but I think it's worthy of a second conversation. I think it's worthy of trying to figure this out because you get little inklings, right? Yeah, where you're like, maybe I could get better, or like maybe I would if I had that power. Would I use it well? Yeah,
I think that's another reason why superhero movies are cool. You see it really easily when you're in school, like high school, especially if you're in a public high school. You see the jocks and you see the nerds and you see I'm saying nerds as in smart people. I'm going to say geeks as in people really into like
technology and nerdy stuff.
I would say like fictitious, like
Dungeons and Dragons,
fantasy, mystery, whatever. Yeah, and you see the cheerleaders and you see all these different kind of people, and they all have their own strengths, whether or not they're celebrated. Yep. But you can't see those strengths as obviously as you can see them in the first Avengers movie, where the Hulk is 9 feet tall and 3 feet deep. Like, he's strong. Yep. Is Black Widow strong? Yeah, but that's not the insane strength she's bringing to the table. Yep. Is Iron Man strong? Yeah, but he has this other strength in his mind and his time to develop technology and that kind of stuff. And like they're blown up to these cosmic proportions.
Absolutely.
And you see what people do with power and how people struggle with power.
Oh, yeah.
And
Civil War goes into that a lot. I mean, Civil War really hits. I mean, but that's the cool thing about all these movies, because there's 25 of them now, 26 of them.
I'd say like 26, 28, somewhere in there.
I was gonna say maybe this is the 28th. I feel
Because
like that's
22 or 23 was Endgame.
That was
and
the
then
saga of Endgame. Yeah,
we've had Black Widow, Shang-Chi, or
the
I
5
hope I'm
rings.
saying that right. 10 rings.
10 rings.
And then Doctor Strange, we've had Spider-Man, and
I think that's it.
that might be it.
I think that is it. So it's another 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Anyway, but
We'll
whatever.
figure it out.
All through these, I feel like the ones that didn't work for me were either a poor man's version of a different arc.
Yeah.
Like Marvel was like, I felt like this similar arc to like between like Thor, Iron Man, and Captain America, where it was kind of like a blending of those arcs. So
Yeah.
it didn't stand out. You know what I mean? Now, Ant-Man I didn't enjoy, which I felt like was a unique thing. I just didn't enjoy the character very much. It didn't relate to the nerdiness. I didn't really like the going small. It just didn't capture me. He was funny. I really liked like some of the stuff, especially
You
when he
liked
was
Paul Rudd.
I liked Paul Rudd.
When you could see Paul Rudd
Yes.
behind Scott Lang.
And I think the other side of it too is just like he was funny in like Civil War and some of that stuff too. So like he has his moments. But I think the characters, they did a really good job of making it kind of an eclectic storytelling. Like there's just a lot of different narratives and woven things that make it feel fresh, good, and complete.
Yeah. I think a few reasons I like Ant-Man, to be particular.
Yeah.
One, he seems like a more family-friendly Guardians of the Galaxy. His movies seem like that. Where they're based on being funny, but whatever. But his superpower feels as off the wall as Doctor Strange sometimes with all his sorcery and whatever. Because so there's a I hope I get this right. I'm probably going to use some of these words wrong or say wrong words in here. But in the military, you have danger in different places.
Yeah.
And the more control you can have over where the danger is, the more control you have over the outcome. So they'll talk about entering a home to clear it for enemies and whatever. And they'll talk about getting through the doorway really quick.
Yep.
Because, I can't remember the exact phrase, like kill funnel or something.
Mm-hmm.
If the enemy wants to hit you, they just aim at the door. Because that's the only place you are. And so you need to get in the room and get to somewhere else in the room and not just stay in the doorway. And that's kind of the thing that felt different between a Captain America, a first Avengers movie or whatever, and all the Doctor Strange movies. In Captain America, it felt like there's a war. We all have guns and fists and whatever, and we just need to get to the end and then beat up this guy and then we're done. In Doctor Strange, it's like anyone, anywhere can do anything at any time. You're never safe. You need to constantly spin around and check all your surroundings. And that's how I felt Ant-Man was. Him shrinking and growing and doing that to other objects is so off the wall that you're no longer safe and in control because you know where the danger is coming from. Now it could come from anywhere. Yeah. Now anybody could be as small as a molecule and as big as a 5-story building.
I think it was just more the relatability because in my mind, when I watch Captain America, I'm like, dude, give me that serum. Like, but I'm not like, hey, I want a shrinking suit.
Yeah.
Like I would love that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so there was just a part of me that the whole time where I would get pulled in to like what Chris Evans could do as that character. I never got pulled in to what Paul Rudd was doing. I was just kind of like, oh, he's
more of a Green Lantern kind of character where he has power, but his power is only effective when his brain is backing it up.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a car chasing us. I'm going to throw it like a Hot Wheels car at it and then throw this giant thing at it to make it grow to an actual car size. So you're throwing a car at somebody, but the amount of brain power it takes to do that, to get that full-size car going at this other, like...
And listen, I watch them. They're entertaining. Like, again, it would just... I don't rewatch Marvel movies as often as I watch Saga. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's why I think... like having the Captain America into Winter Soldier, having, you know what I mean? And the saga of the Ant-Man did not capture me. I don't think it's unworthy of liking. I feel like I'm sounding like I hate Ant-Man. I don't. I just don't find it as captivating.
Yeah.
But
He's the Ben Rector of superheroes.
I don't.
Very PG.
I feel like the Thor movies got me more than those. But again, that's it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really excited for part 2, and I hope that this whet your appetite enough, because I think part 2 is basically going to take some of this investigation that we just did into maybe why we enjoy it, but it's going to take it into more of a trying to pull it into our world and go like,
and why is this important to us?
Why is it? And
Yeah.
here's the thing. I think it's something that's teachable. I think it's teachable to maybe your friends, your kids. I think it's just something that good for you to have like a curiosity about. If something really captures your attention and you're going like, why does this feel so real? I think being curious and seeing the connections, I think can be really helpful to understanding maybe God's position in your life, your insecurities or your desires or your passions or your skills, and like how we have more influence than we realize, we have more ability than we realize. And these stories kind of, like you said, amplify that, but it does not change that we still have deep impact and that these stories are still being told in our lives and that they're playing out around us more than we realize. So excited for next week or, to kind of go to part 2. And, I hope you'll hit the subscribe button so you're ready, or you'll share this with somebody and so they can anticipate with you. Or you'll leave a review and join that on the podcast. And any final thoughts? Anything from the discussion?
I was just thinking about how a lot of the Marvel shows and movies, especially the past 15-something movies and a lot of the shows, they're based on somebody's deep grief over something. So Thanos, his world is kind of destroyed by famine a little bit, but then and you see that same thing at the beginning of or at the end of the WandaVision show, that a lot of what's happening in her world is her expression of grief and pain.
Yeah.
You see that in
almost all of them. I mean, literally, I can't think of one like Captain America lost. You know what I mean? Like Thor, his whole world. You know what I mean? Like there's just like
Iron Man 3 is one of my favorites. Honestly, that should have made it on my top 5.
Iron Man 3 is really good.
Yeah. Because it's his conflict with current grief and current struggle.
And that whole hammer scene is so fun.
Yeah.
Where they like all try to pick it up.
Yeah.
And they're like, quit being a baby. Are you trying?
Yeah.
No, and Ultron is such a good villain too. Right? That's Ultron.
No. That's Avengers Age of Ultron. I'm talking about Iron Man 3, where Avengers 1 has happened.
Oh, yes,
and
yes.
with the Mandarin, but like the fake one who's a hired British actor.
Yep. I had that totally mixed up in my head.
No, so it's the one where he's like going through like PTSD and these freakouts.
And he's not talking about it.
Yeah.
He's not letting anybody in.
That one.
It's so good. Dude,
so good.
Now I want to go back and rewatch it.
Yeah.
Well,
I want to rewatch it.
I hope that we've even encouraged you to maybe check out one of those movies. I know the Disney Plus has almost all of them, which is really cool. Well, you guys have a great and glorious day in the Lord, and I hope that you'll tune back in for part 2 of our discussions on the power of stories.
Yeah.
We'll see you then.
See ya.